History remembers him as great, but greatness often casts a long shadow. Behind the legend of Alexander undefeated general, visionary ruler, master strategist lies another story. A story of fury, of obsession, of a young king who began to believe he was more than human. Alexander grew up steeped in violence. The son of King Philip II of Macedon, he was raised to dominate. Trained by the philosopher Aristotle, he absorbed science and logic. But it was Homer Estailis of Achilles the warrior who chose eternal glory over a long life that truly captured his imagination. From this, Alexander internalized a dangerous idea: to be remembered forever, one must live beyond ordinary morality. At just 20 years old, he became king. His first acts were swift and brutal. Rivals were executed, rebellious Greek cities were crushed. When the city of Thebes dared to resist Macedonian control, Alexander didn't just conquer it, he obliterated it. Thousands were killed, and the survivors were sold into slavery. It was a terrifying message to the world: submit or be erased. His thirst for absolute submission led him to the island city of Tyre in 332 BC. The city refused him entry. A fatal mistake. Alexander could have easily bypassed it and continued his campaign. Instead, he chose annihilation. For 7 long months, his engineers built a massive causeway through the sea to reach its impenetrable walls. Siege engines thundered day and night. Towers burned, soldiers drowned in the waves. When Tyre finally fell, Alexander's fury was unleashed. Thousands of its citizens were slaughtered. Thousands more were crucified along the shoreline, their bodies a gruesome warning to all who might defy him. The conqueror was no longer just strategic. He was becoming relentless. After defeating the Persian king Darius III, Alexander marched into the magnificent capital of an empire centuries old. At first, he showed surprising restraint, but that changed during a single night of heavy drinking. Surrounded by his commanders, he made a choice that would forever define his darker legacy. The great palace was set ablaze. Intricate columns cracked in the inferno. Golden halls melted into ruin. Priceless art and historical archives turned to ash. Some historians call it calculated revenge for Persia's invasion of Greece a century before. Others call it a fit of drunken arrogance. But it revealed something deeper. Alexander no longer saw himself as a mere king. In his own mind, he was an instrument of destiny. As his empire expanded, so did his paranoia. He began adopting Persian customs, wearing royal robes and demanding that his men perform proskynesis, a ritual, bowing usually reserved for gods. Many of his loyal Macedonians resented this shift. Among the most vocal was Cletus the Black, a trusted general who had once saved Alexander's life in the heat of battle. One night, at a banquet deep in Central Asia, tempers flared. Cletus, fueled by wine, openly criticized Alexander for abandoning their Macedonian traditions. Alexander, consumed by alcohol and rage, seized a spear, and in a single horrific moment, he killed him. The man who had saved his life lay dead by his hand. When the fury faded, Alexander collapsed in grief, inconsolable for days. But the damage was done. Fear was beginning to replace loyalty among his closest companions. His ambitions seemed to have no limits. In Central Asia, revolts were met with scorched earth tactics. Villages were burned, and resistance was crushed with brutal efficiency. Then came India. At the height of Spicy River, Alexander faced King Porus and his terrifying war elephants. Though he was victorious, the battle was costly, and his army suffered deeply. Exhausted, wounded, and thousands of miles from home, his soldiers finally refused to march farther east. For the first time in his life, Alexander could not conquer by sheer force of will. He had pushed his men beyond the limits of human endurance, all in a relentless chase toward the edge of the world. But perhaps he was really chasing something else. Validation, divinity, immortality. By 323 BC, in the ancient city of Babylon, Alexander ruled the largest empire the world had ever seen. But the immense strain was showing. Years of relentless campaigning, endless ambition, and growing isolation had taken their toll. Some accounts suggest his final days were lost in a haze of heavy drinking. Others whisper of poison. What many agree on is that he had come to believe he was the son of Zeus, more god than man. At just 32 years old, he fell ill. A fever consumed him. Within days, the conqueror who had never lost a battle lost the only one that truly mattered. When asked on his deathbed who would inherit his vast empire, he reportedly answered, to the strongest. With those words, unity died. His generals immediately turned on one another, tearing the empire apart in decades of bloody civil war. Alexander's legacy is complex. He spread Greek language and culture across continents, founding cities that became centers of learning for centuries. He forever changed the course of civilization. But he also left behind a trail of burned capitals, crucified populations, and rivers red with blood. Was he a visionary unifier, or a brilliant destroyer consumed by his own legend? The truth is, he was likely both, because history rarely gives us heroes without shadows. And Alexander the Great, undefeated in battle, may have ultimately been defeated by the fire within himself. Thanks for watching.